What is the balancing point between revealing uncomfortable events and agendas and not giving them the time of day? Is it fear porn to unveil global agendas for a global reset? Is it naive to believe that we can just block all those events and agendas out and still inherit a paradise? How do we create a news program that uplifts and inspires the masses while still accurately showing where we are as a humanity on planet Earth? That's what we're going to get into today. Remember to hit that like button, smash it, give it a little love tap, and get ready for the new news right here on Waking Infinity. Welcome back to Waking Infinity News, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Ben Stewart, and let's just hop right into it. After this past Monday's news program about the dark winter and the Great Reset, I've gotten a lot of emails. There's a lot of people who really appreciate it and said thank you. But there's two emails that stuck out to me that I find to be very important, and I want to address them humbly, respectfully, with the community. I haven't received an email back from them yet saying that I could say their name, so I'm going to keep it anonymous for now. But I feel it's very important to address this as a community. I aim to grow. I think that addressing this as a community is the only way we can truly make this news program exactly what it intends to be, something that uplifts the masses while giving an accurate description of where we are actually at. The reason is because if you know anything about manifestation, you don't swim in the fear of where you're at. You don't swim in the feeling of what you're trying to get rid of or move away from. You sit in the feeling of having the solutions already present in the here and now, because they are here, and this is how we draw them towards us. However, if you are in the middle of the desert, every direction looks exactly the same, you can't tell where you are, and you have a desired destination. How are you going to get there? You don't know which direction to begin moving into. So it's not enough to simply talk about the solutions, to talk about paradise, and to talk about where we wish to be if we do not have an accurate representation or reference point to where we are right now. This is why I give the news. I talk about local and global events that are happening that may not be uncomfortable to some people, but they may be extremely fear-based and uncomfortable to others. That's why I want to bring to you these two pieces of information that came to me. Now, these questions came from audience members that they're balanced, and I appreciate that. And they're very fair questions. So let's just dive right into it. The first person said, I got the feeling that when you were on George Noris' show the first time, you were on the optimistic side. Do you plan on being more critical? So the show that this person is referring to is George Noris' show on Gaia.com called Beyond Belief. Now the episode title, if you guys want to check it out, is called Living in a 5G World with Ben Stewart. I went on that show. It's become the most highly rated, at least for the year, episode on Gaia. But 56% of it gave it a thumbs down. And that was something that actually took me by surprise. I thought people would understand why I was being optimistic about what I was sharing, even though what I was sharing seemed like it could be fear-based. So I was talking about 5G. I was going beyond just the fact that it's Wi-Fi radiation and it could be deleterious to our health. And I was getting into the surveillance state. I was getting into AI, where technology is going, how big tech is ushering in a brand new age in the coming 10 years. A lot of people on the comment board said, this guy seems like a 5G apologist. This guy seems like he's saying, look, there's all these problems, but it's okay, we can just meditate our way out of it. And it surprised me because I thought that these people on Gaia would have a better understanding of the law of attraction. I thought that maybe they would understand that this is something we don't need to fear, but we need directed action to address. So that's how I approached it. And I did it on purpose, exactly the way that I did it. However, many people didn't understand. So me, trying to be as humble as possible, I took a step back and said, what could I have done better? Well, here's how I plan on addressing that specific question. Now, There's critical on one side and there's optimistic on the other side. I don't believe that these are polar opposites of one another. So what I try to do with these polar opposites is follow the Tao. How are they actually two sides of the same coin? How do they marry and actually make the solution that's transcendent of the way they look when they seem to be polar opposites of one another? And that is self-actualization. Really, the only way that we can say there is a solution between being critical, which is good, being critical about where we're actually at, and being optimistic about where we can go. When you put those two together, you are skeptical, you're not doubtful, you're skeptical of things that might be false awakenings, false tools to use. And then you're also open-minded. You're not gullible. You don't believe just anything. You're open-minded to solutions because you know that you don't know everything. So you have to leave a little bit of room for the light to get into the cracks. So you can transcend both of them and realize that they are not different from one another. So there's somebody that said in another email, you use the word resistance, that a worldwide resistance needs to come about. And actually, these were the words of Ellen Brown, the chair of the Banking Institute, who said, we need a worldwide global resistance while there is still time. And I said, I cannot agree more. And the reason why is because resistance wouldn't be an issue if we were already swimming in our oneness, right? If there was nothing out here that could actually cause any harm to us. But we know that we have seat belts that resist impact, and that resistance can save our lives and mitigate harm. Why? Because we still live in a world where harm can come about, and to mitigate that harm is not living in illusion. That's actually living in reality. Another form of resistance is, let's say a child is about to fall down the steps, and a mom notices it. Is it resisting reality? Is it blocking out the bad juju by saying, well, the chips have to fall where they may, resistance is bad, I'm just going to let my child fall down the steps? Or is offering the right amount of efficient resistance the right way to go? You catch the child, right? They may still be a little scared because they lost their balance, but they don't have to pay the ultimate price. They have safeguards. They have love around them. That's what parents represent to them. Love, care, compassion, and protection. So resisting that feeling is not a bad thing. It's a natural thing given an honest, sobering look at where we are. So the very next email that I need to get into is the one that really stood out to me. And I'll keep it anonymous because I haven't gotten permission yet. This is getting fairly into fear consciousness. Had a good sort of message at the end, but it was still fear-based. This is a fair statement to make. It's fair because I understand that sometimes pointing out what seem to be the problems, the enemy, seems to be fear porn, fear-mongering, fear-based information. So I have a couple questions for this individual. The ways that I broke it down, after going back and watching through the episode several times, the way that I broke it down is there are 3 ways that I could potentially look at this episode as being fear-based. One is my form of expression, my tone of voice, my body language exuded some kind of fear. And that's what put people in a fear-based reaction to that episode. I say this because I could be wrong. Some other people could see things inside my behavior, my body language, my tone of voice that could say, dude, you're swimming in fear. You need to chill it out a little bit. You need to face your shadow and come back into your own empowerment. If that's the case, I would really like to know. So I watched through it as many times as I could, and I didn't find any examples, even though I was looking for it, that I was expressing fear. In fact, the closest thing that I could say that I even said that was expressing fear was, this thing that they're calling the dark winter is in the room. But then I have to ask, did I say that in a scary way or in a matter-of-fact way? Matter-of-factly, these things are at our door. I do believe that. If I'm wrong about that, then it's the content itself that is out of place, not my tone, and it's not fear-based, it's just inaccurate, which could also be very true. So that's option number 1. Option number 2 is that It was the content itself that was just steeped in fear. Now, this person said had a good sort of message at the end, but it was still fear-based, meaning the whole thing was based in fear. So, the other option is that I simply presented uncomfortable truths, and the reaction from this individual was fear-based. He or she did not want to face that fear in themselves, so they throw it back and project it onto me, saying, you and your news program got into fear-based media. If that's the case, I would have to say that my expression didn't seem like it was coming from fear, not in my understanding, which I could be wrong, I admit that. But if this individual took it in a way that said, I can't perceive of any solution, and the solutions he gives at the end, they made me feel a little better, but not enough to make me feel like there's actual solutions to the problems that he presented, then that would mean that the individual, him or herself, was in fear and didn't know how to move past it and projected it onto me. How dare you give me these messages without properly giving me the solutions that would make me feel comfortable enough to go on with my day not in a fear state. The only other option than those two options that I could think of would be that there's maybe an imbalance between the presentation of the content and expression together. Maybe the imbalance is, as I'm giving some of these things that could be perceived as the problem, the enemy, that I wasn't intersplicing them enough with, but here's the solution. And I saved all the solutions for the end, and I front-loaded it with all the problems. That could be another way of looking at it, and maybe there's 100,000 different other ways that you can explain it. Again, what I'm trying to do is not just, in a sense, give excuses for the way that I gave my information. I really do want to understand how I can make this news program better, but I need specific information, not general information, not this was fear-based. That does me no good. I need to know exactly what it was, so please break down your argument. Help me understand exactly what I did that could have been better, that doesn't involve ignoring the issues, that doesn't involve not talking about agendas that you can find on Wikipedia, that you can find anywhere you go from the horse's mouth. I would really like to enhance this program, so I need your feedback. We need to do this as a community. We need to grow together. I will not stop bringing you the news, but I will also not stop improving and enhancing and refining the way that I bring you the news. So, there are two pieces of media that you can find on Gaia.com, and I'm not promoting Gaia.com. I'm simply saying this is where I find all this content myself. Sacred Economics by Charles Eisenstein is a beautiful film. I think it's 12 minutes long, and it's Charles Eisenstein, whom I've met. He lived in my hometown of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He speaks about the gift economy and the difference between the gift economy and the monetized economy that we have today. And he says things very beautifully that I don't even want to tell you, I just want to show you exactly how he gets into it. So I'll give you this piece of media. It's just a clip. You can watch the full thing on Gaia.com, and afterwards I'll explain a little bit about why I think it's such a beautiful message.
We're going to see a series of crisis moments, each one more severe than the last. And at each crisis moment, we'll have a collective choice. Do we give up the game and join the people, or do we hold on even tighter? It's really up to us to determine at what point this wake-up point will happen. Was this all a big mistake? That's a good question, and it's sort of, it sure seems like it was sometimes. When you look around at just the horrors that have taken place on this earth and that are ongoing right now, and some people think, I just don't want any part of this. Civilization was a huge mistake. I came to see this whole journey of separation not as a mistake, but as part of a larger process. It started, I think, with the environmental movement in the 1960s. That was its first awakening into mass consciousness. And the astronauts went up and experienced the pinnacle of separation. And the photos that got beamed down, even today, it still evokes love in us. So we're falling in love with Earth. That's one part of our transition into adulthood. The other part is the coming of age ordeal, when the old world falls apart and a new world is born. You know, a child plays and develops his or her gifts, but doesn't apply them toward their true purpose yet. And that's what humanity's been doing, playing with our gifts of technology and culture and developing these gifts. Now we're coming into adulthood, and it's time to apply them to our true purpose. At the beginning, I think that'll be to simply heal the damage that's been done. And there's a lot of healing that needs to be done, and it's almost impossible, actually. You could say that really we're in the business of creating a miracle here on Earth. I'm saying it's something that is impossible from an old understanding of reality, but possible from a new one. And in fact, it's necessary. And in fact, anything less than that isn't even worth trying.
First of all, I want to express how grateful I am for Charles Eisenstein to have a form of expression that does not ignore what could be the issue, and it very much so includes what is the solution to these things that are the issues. Now, the problem is the dysfunction in our system. He doesn't point fingers at specific people. It's, in a sense, a mind frame. It's a tool that we use. It's this interest-based model where there's never enough money in circulation to pay off the debt, and there seems to create this vacuum of money constantly being sucked towards the top. One example of this today seems to be diapers.com. Amazon went to diapers.com and said, "Can we buy you out?" Diapers.com said no. So what did Amazon do? They lowered their price way below diapers.com, so much so that they were losing money just to put diapers.com out of business. It's also against the antitrust law. It's anti-competitive in business, which you'll see Mark Zuckerberg and other people in big tech are having to come out and explain themselves why it's not competitive enough. So here's what happened with Amazon. Amazon, a company that makes trillions of dollars and pays zero in taxes. In a sense, even Walmart came out. Walmart, the ones who came through and destroyed a bunch of small-time mom-pa types of businesses, said it's unfair to have a business like Amazon that doesn't need to make money, and they're still booming in their business. So what happened was, when Amazon undercut diapers.com, diapers.com started losing a lot of business to where they eventually had to come back to Amazon and say, "Okay, you win. Do you want to buy us out now?" And Amazon said, "Okay," came in, bought them out. That's not fair, nor is it legal. So the way that we look at this in our modern system is either our modern system is broken and Amazon just did what you would naturally do in this kind of a system, or they should have obeyed the antitrust laws and Amazon should not have done this. That is just an example of what seems to happen in this dysfunctional economic system that Charles Eisenstein is laying out. Now, in gift economy, where Charles says, we were simply given. We didn't have to earn the sun. We didn't have to earn birth. We didn't have to earn oxygen and breathing and having a planet that gives us food naturally by its way of being, its effortless way of being. It just gives food. It gives oxygen. It gives shelter. It gives warmth. It gives lessons to us. That's the world that we live in before this economic model comes in and distorts it. So how do you live in gift economy? It cannot happen, and he says it very squarely in Sacred Economics. You cannot live in gift economy if you simply plant it on top of the dysfunctional monetary economy. That's like trying to build a house on quicksand. So the solution is we really do need to deconstruct the system as it is in the right way, with optimism, with our community together, knowing that we want to drive in a fair direction. And that word fair needs to be across the board. And some people are saying having a universal basic income really only further drives people into this class disparity, where there are some who have all the technology and they are the providers, and we are simply the ones who need to take what they have to offer. When you can take water, something that the earth naturally gives, and you turn it into a commodity that we have to buy, there's a problem. The same goes for oxygen, food, shelter, any and all of these things. If we have to pay to live, if we have to pay taxes to even live on a piece of land for ourselves, that seems to have a conflict of interest. So, where does the solution start? This is why I am optimistic, because I know that optimism is a form of living in your heart's power. But you have to be truly heart-centered, and you have to be realistic with where the world truly is, so you can lift people up who see the problem so much that they're overly identified with it. So, here's the next clip that I want to show you guys about global coherence. It has a lot of work from Heart Math Institute that shows living in the heart is the way that you start linking your heart with the planet Earth and also with the cosmos at large, so we can actually be aligned with the true power of manifestation and with a sobering look at where we are on planet Earth. We can listen to Earth and where it is. It can listen to us and where we are. And we can come back into resonance, which is the true solution to any and all dysfunction. Here's a clip from the film Global Coherence.
In Global Coherence, we're really looking at the interaction or the communication really between humanity, all of us humans, and the Earth itself. So we've installed these ultra-sensitive magnetometers all around the Earth that are designed to measure what are called the resonant frequencies, or the moving fields, or the vibrating fields in the Earth's magnetic fields. So what we're seeing here is that our hearts and brains are operating at the same frequency as the magnetic fields, the resonating frequencies of Earth itself. So we have the basic understanding of how our hearts and brains can be transferring information back and forth between all of us humans and the Earth's fields itself. So what this implies is that what we think and feel, but especially what we feel inside, our emotions, don't just stay inside of us. We know they radiate out into the field environment through our heart's magnetic fields. But what we believe here, and what I'm suggesting, is that the heart's magnetic fields connect with and couple to the Earth's vibrating magnetic field, so it's a globally distributed energetic effect.
So it's pretty cool research. It's amazing research, and it opens a door for understanding ourselves in a different and new way. The big deal for me is this, is it begins to show us that in fact we are not alone, that we are all in this together, all in this game of life together, not as separate as we perceive sometimes. So I think that's the real beauty of the global coherence research. The science is amazing, it's intriguing, it's interesting, but at the end of the day, what I want people to understand from it is we are not alone.
As a highly connected global society, we're moving rapidly toward having to make important choices that will affect our present security and the lives of future generations. But the very challenges of this time period also present opportunities for a significant shift in human consciousness.
Heart-based living is when one learns to really align with the intuitive guidance of their heart and bring that into day-to-day life and the choices we make. One of the key aspects of heart-based living is that we become more inclusive in our thoughts, our feelings about others, and our behaviors.
There's so many heart-based qualities that have been valued by countries, nations, cultures all over the world. And there's a good reason for that. They really create more connection with something larger, with who we really are, and they allow us to have more flow, creativity, and fulfillment in life.
You see, the solution truly does come from within. It always has to emerge from within. I do not believe it is fear-based to present issues that are happening on a planet that is operating from a dysfunctional model. I think that is simply pointing out to somebody that you're walking towards a cliff staring at the sky. That's a dysfunctional model, okay? It's not fear-mongering to tell this person, you're going to have a serious problem if you don't correct your model of moving forward. We need to look accurately at what's ahead of us instead of just dreaming into the world that we want, or looking straight down thinking that the only thing we can do is keep moving towards this massive abyss. We have solutions, and they do come from becoming heart-centered first. That is the first step of a sequence that will unfold, no matter whether we like it or not. Whether we want to face the issues at hand or not, we are moving towards that cliff. This is not fear porn. It is an observation, and could I be wrong? Absolutely. Could everything that I showed you in my last episode be fake news or misinformation? Yes, I found it online. All of it could be some massive illusion that I've fallen into. If that is the case, please bring me accurate and descriptive information on how I was wrong and how I could have done it better, because humbly, I really wish to bring you the best news I possibly can. I'm not going to try and pretend like I have all the answers, and I really do wish to grow with you, with the community. So I want to leave you on this. Barbara Marx Hubbard, if you go to another Gaia show called Legacy, Barbara Marx Hubbard had about 6 episodes where she was explaining her entire life's work. If you listen carefully, she was 15 and she watched the first atomic bomb being dropped. And she was in the house and she saw this massive power that the human species has at our disposal. And she said, while everybody was standing in horror of what we can accomplish as a species, she said, what does this mean that is good?
What is the meaning of our new powers that is good?
The role of humans is changing from mere survival or power over each other or over nature, that the real meaning of humans is going to be to guide the new powers of humanity, science, technology, industry, toward a new humanity, to heal the earth, to free the people, to explore inner space and outer space in a cosmos probably filled with life. We did not have leaders who could take us the next step, who was saying, let's use this power to heal the earth, free the people, and we're going to be a universal species, and it's the greatest age of human history. I didn't find anybody like that. And it wasn't going to be more and more power and wealth on this earth alone. We were going to use the technology to heal the earth, free the people, and explore the universe. So I became a pioneer in awareness. One of my favorite futurists and authors is Jerry Glenn. And in a book he wrote on conscious technology, he identified a pathway forward. And he said, if the mystic, spiritually motivated person, joins forces with the technocrat who understands the enormity of the powers given to humanity, that combination of the mystical and the technical capabilities will lead to a new civilization. And he called it a conscious technocratical civilization, and I'm calling it even deeper, a new species.
I absolutely love this woman. But a lot of people don't like the idea of technology because they simply see that technology is destroying our Earth. It is destroying biology. It is making things uninhabitable for us. I disagree. I think our use of the technology, our current form of technology, and the way that we've decided to roll it out, opposing people's sovereignty without everyone's consent in a natural and fair way, that is the issue. That is a human problem. That is a dysfunction in heart coherence. That is not a problem of technology itself. So I do believe that the spiritual aspirant or the mystic and the technocrat need to marry. And when that happens, we will realize that technology can liberate us from a lot of the things that our past has already taught us. We don't need to learn those lessons again. We need to move forward as a species, not keep revolving around in the same state. We're here to grow and learn, not to simply be given everything that we want. We don't learn from being in our comfort zone. And I feel that some people who feel that I'm bringing fear-mongering to the camera and to the audience are people who feel that we should just be given paradise. I don't believe that. I believe that we are moving into our paradise, but paradise is also not a static state. Paradise is the continual use of all of our gifts to share, to learn, to grow, and to face uncomfortable truths, to go through birthing pains, uncomfortable aspects of our shadow, and eventually arrive at real enlightened understandings of who we are and why we are on this planet to begin with. That's my opinion, unless you guys can come to me with something that allows me to grow. I hope you do. I really do. I want to thank you so much for joining me on Waking Infinity News. Please keep sending me your emails to ben@benjosephstewart.com. Please hit that like button. Please comment below. And please, if you can, donate to Venmo and PayPal. The information is below to keep this news channel moving. I want all your comments. I want the community and the tribe together now. Not tomorrow, not later, some future distant point. We must come together now. We must start singing in resonance, singing that eternal song, giving our gifts to the world and shine regardless of who deserves it or doesn't deserve it. We are all children of God. We shouldn't be dividing ourselves. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you again. I'm your host, Ben Stewart. This is Waking Infinity News, and I'll catch you next time.